Some of us know this person as Venom. Some of us know this person as King Venom. Some of us know this person as King Kevyn. And some of us know this person as simply Kevyn Mines. King Venom Kevyn. How are
What's
you?
going on, Samson? I'm amazing. Thank you for having me on. It means a lot.
So, of course, I got a chance to take a look into your book, A Life of Lust, which is a memoir, and also it serves as a bit of a self-help book. So let's talk about the journey from a young church boy, which is where many of us come from, to getting into adult entertainment. How did that transition happen?
I think we all experienced church hurt. My grandmother passed away, and my immediate family, my mom and my siblings, they moved from Philly to Cincinnati, Ohio. I had just gotten this job. I just enrolled back into school, and I'm like, I can't leave right now. I don't want to. And then I don't even know what's in Cincinnati, Ohio. There was help available to me, and I was being stubborn. The people that I went to in church for help betrayed me, so I felt like that applied to everybody. I came across this guy who I thought was just the most gorgeous guy in the world. He was hanging out with my best friend from high school. And I'm like, who is he? So I started flirting with him. He started flirting back. So I'm like, oh, this might actually work out for me. Then he told me about his two boyfriends. I said, oh, okay. And how they all are doing porn. I'm like, oh, okay. And I think because of the pain and the disappointment I had from church, it's time for me to wall out. Like I lived according to what the church said I should be or what I should do. And I went for it. I didn't have any preconceived notions of what this would be like. I don't regret it. I won't take it back, but I really wasn't fully aware of what I was getting myself into when I did that first scene for $75.
First scene for $75. What year was
2005.
How did you get the gig? Like, what was that like? Like, who did you call somebody?
So the guy I was attracted to, he literally took me to his boyfriend's apartment. He and I had sex while his boyfriend filmed it, and they paid me $75. That was my introduction. Then they took me to New York, where I met Marvin Jones, rest his soul, of Latino Connections, also known as Chocolate Cream Factory. And Marvin put me on the map. He just shot with me. He just kept making all these videos and wanted to use me for this, that. Then Dog Pound saw me and they started using me, and I started to go to different places. And before I knew it, Venom was a brand.
So you have this career in adult entertainment. You're becoming a star in that world. And for the folks who aren't aware of this before OnlyFans, back in the day, to be a porn star was a serious thing.
Like, I see some people on Twitter and I'm like, you are not an entertainer. You need some extra money. Like, there's a difference. And then you have people who they good to look at, but they still don't understand that it's a business. But coming from the studio porn, my mindset, and again, I'm an old hoe now. Like, there's all these young guys coming up and doing their thing, and more power to them. I kind of got to break some of the bad habits from working in the studio because it don't work the same.
Studio porn, which is, the school that you were a part of, versus now, like, what's different and what have you had to change to adapt?
I think one of the biggest differences is I have complete control over the content I create, who I can collaborate with, my interactions with my fans, and the amount of money I can make. In the past, with studios, whatever they paid me, as a Black man on the East Coast who was gay filming porn, there were no residuals. The only contract you signed was a release form saying they can use your image and your likeness. So there was no residuals. Whatever they paid me before we started or by the end of that shoot was all I was going to get. Whereas they would go and sell these DVDs, or they had subscriptions to their websites, and they're just turning over money. And I'm walking away with my little $500. Like, okay, what's next? And back in the day, it was up to the producers to figure out who's working together. They showed me pictures, say, yeah, this person, that person. Now I play the scouting agent. I find the locations to shoot. I hire the cameraman. I buy the equipment. So I've married the two, actually. I'm taking all the professional stuff I learned from being with the studios and being able to control the way I produce my own content. Now I'm doing a little bit of both. And some people even said they feel like it's a little bit intimidating because a lot of people are used to their amateur porn now, where they just put their phone on a tripod and they do it. And from time to time, I'm like, okay, no, we got a cameraman, we got a whole set, and we're doing it. So, yeah.
I read an excerpt in your book that said you disclosed to your mom that you were doing adult entertainment. So what was that like? How did your family respond? Or have you had like a cousin or something be like, I seen your video?
When I realized I was gay, when I first started doing porn, and when I found out that I was HIV positive, my mom has always been my best friend. She was the person I've always gone to first. Like, she will be the one to keep my secrets with me, still to this day. So, I mean, that was an easy hump to get over. I naively thought that no one else knew that I was Venom in my family. I have a huge family. My mom's the baby of 12 children. And that's just on my mom's side. So I thought no one knew. I was in Miami visiting a cousin, and we were walking up the strip, and there was a gay club, and it's during a pandemic. And I'm like, okay, I don't think I want my cousin, because we grew up in church together. I want him to know all my business. So I take my mask and put it over my face, put my hood up, and turn away from the club so no one would see me. It's like, what you doing? I'm like, I'm hoping to not be recognized. He said, we all know you Venom. Everybody knows you're Venom. And my family embraces me. They love me. I love them. I mean, there's those few who don't know how to be around their cousin who's gay like I want them. But outside of that, like, they fight over who's my favorite. I love it.
When it comes to dating and relationships, how has being an adult entertainer affected your relationships?
I hate that was a weapon used against me a lot, especially because, like, there were genuine people that I was genuinely in love with. There were other issues that affected the relationship. Porn was just their scapegoat. I remember being in the middle of an argument with a partner of mine outside of a bar, and like someone comes walking up, oh my gosh, Venom, I love the way you be slinging that dick, in the middle of me arguing with my partner. And it gets awkward. Or I was in New York with a partner, and we were in Times Square, and someone wanted to take a picture with me. I have to like kind of like juggle his emotions and still be the personality or the influencer that I am. To, yeah, I'll take a picture, smile, give a hug or whatever. I'll hear your compliment, thank you, and still make sure that the person standing next to me that I'm actually with doesn't feel inadequate or like I'm all into this person that I don't even know. But these are the things I've had to experience. And finding myself, I realized that I'm not a monogamous person, and not in a sense like, oh, I just need to be cheating. I'm polyamorous. And I've known this for a long time, but like now it's popular. Everybody wants to be poly, and I'm not knocking it. Please do find what works for you. But I realized like I was hurting myself and others in relationships trying to be monogamous, and I'm not a monogamous person. And instead of just saying that and laying all my cards on the table clearly, I'm gonna do what you want me to do, and I'm not happy. Being in porn gave me that liberation to say, you know what? This is who I am. I'm going to embrace it. And if a person comes in my life and this isn't what they want, I'm not mad at you, but I just can't subscribe to anything other than who I am.
In polyamory, are you really loving more than one person at a time? Or is it needing to have someone that you can love, but also gives you the freedom to go be physically intimate with other people?
The short answer is all of the above.
Okay.
I think whether you're a monogamous relationship, polyamorous, open, whatever, you have to do what works for you. Every relationship is different. So people in those relationships need to customize the relationship to what works for them. I find that you can love multiple people at once. The best analogy I can give is a mother who has multiple children. You're like, well, you're not having sex with your, but it's the perfect example of love. I mean, and a mom that really loves her children, like, that's love. And you find a way to coexist with each of your children based off of each of their individual needs. It's the same thing, just it's a lot more intimate. And like when you start to compartmentalize how you express yourself sexually, if you do, and with who you do, you kind of like, you learn that one, every energy that's in this circle doesn't necessarily need to be a sexual one.
Yes.
That's number one. Number two, the bond that I have with this person is different than the bond I have with that person, and their bond with each other. So it's just being open-minded to explore different things that will arise, like jealousy. A lot of times people say, oh, I can't do it, I'm too jealous. Well, let's explore that. Why are you jealous? What is this jealousy doing for you? Is it helping you or is it hurting you? It's a real emotion, but how are you going to allow it to affect you? The way I look at it is that's an alarm going off when I see jealousy pop up, whether it's in me or the other person. And I use jealousy as an example, but it could be anything. Like if you have trust issues, it's not to say don't pursue a relationship, monogamous or poly. It's to say, I don't trust this because it reminds me of what I went through, or I don't like this situation because it's not giving me what I need. Like you have to explore those things, not just say, oh, I don't like you hanging out with that person. Why? Because it's not that person. It could be any person, honestly. But what is it about this that's making you uncomfortable? How do we unpack that?
How do you find vulnerability in polyamorous relationships?
I start with the things that would normally chase people away. One, I need to know that you're okay with my HIV status, whether you're negative or positive, because that's something that's not going to change. And if you can't handle it, then we can't be together on any level. And then, hey, I'm a porn star. I sleep with multiple people. I get checked up and everything, but you have to be okay with the fact that I am doing it or I have done it. It's out there. People know what my body looks like. If that's something that's too sensitive for you, this isn't going to work. I like to make sure that I'm being as transparent as possible from the door. I mean, I can't cover everything, but as much as I can, I kind of like want to turn people off because I know my personality shines. But if I say something now that might pop up later that you're going to say, oh, I can't deal with, you already know. I already told you.
Something I really commend you for, and that's being open about your HIV status. A lot of people don't have the courage to do that. So tell us about that journey. How did you find out, and what was that journey like?
So a friend of mine came from out of town, wanted to go get tested. Like we knew that we was going to end up in the sheets. So I went with him. He didn't even ask me to go. He just told me he was going to go. So I said, okay, look, I'm responsible. I'm going to meet you there. And he got his results and came out. Everybody else was in the waiting room, got their results and came back. And I'm just sitting there waiting for them to call my ticket number. And they called it. And I go back to his latest, like, do you have any reason to believe that this test will come back positive? I'm like, okay, just tell me that it's positive at this point. Back then, it was so stigmatized more than what it is right now. So I hid. I'm not gonna lie. I hid. I hid from church. I hid from porn. I hid from the public. It was a long journey. I told my mom because it was just too heavy for me to deal with myself. But I think the more I educated myself, the less scary it became. It actually freed me when I became undetectable and I learned about taking medication to take care of myself. I remember the first time my doctor said, yeah, your viral load is undetectable. For those people who don't know what that means there's so few copies of the virus in your body that the test can't trace HIV. I got control of my health again. And that changed everything for me personally. There was a documentary that was done called The Way to Kevyn. And we filmed the entire thing and we thought it was done. And one of the producers was like, Kevyn, this is a great story, but it's missing something. And for like a week or two, we went back and forth about what we could add. And then she said, I mean, I don't want to be in your business, but I kind of like heard through the grapevine that you're positive. And I think that if you told that would make this complete. It's like the icing on the cake. And I'm like, no, that's my life, not yours. This is like, you're the producer, but this is my life. I don't want to put myself out there like that. And I took some time to think about it. And I was living in Atlanta at the time, and I came back up to Philly and we recorded the last part of that documentary, which is like the last 2 to 5 minutes, where I exposed myself in this DVD at the time. Once I grabbed it and took ownership of it, it no longer had me. I was free. And I realized the more I talk about it, the freer I got. At that point, I was actually being celebrated for my honesty and transparency. One of the things that was most important to me was I remember what it felt like when I didn't have a voice, when I felt by myself living with HIV, thinking that I'm going to die. I'm not going to have a family. No one's going to love me. I shouldn't pursue any of my dreams anymore because I'm going to die. And if I don't die, I won't nobody want to be around me because I got HIV. And when I realized that that wasn't a death sentence and that I could take the power from it, I regained my voice. So I wanted to be that voice for other people. Something that I tell people, like if someone comes to me and say, hey, I just got this HIV diagnosis, diagnosis and I don't know how to tell my parent, my first response is don't. And the reason why is because if you just found out, you haven't told yourself, you haven't come to terms, you haven't found peace with it. I know it's going to be okay, but until you get there, I don't think people should tell their family. I think they should sit, and unless they have somebody that's a confidant that they can really trust, that they don't have to second guess, like, is this person going to like cut me off? And it may not be a family, it may be a friend. It might be a teacher, a counselor, a coworker, whoever that person is, find that person. And again, it doesn't have to be public. I do it publicly because there are people who can't, especially being in the space that I'm in. We know damn well I'm not the only person that's on OnlyFans having raw sex that's HIV positive. I don't want them to come out. I'm not trying to say, hey, I'm doing this so everybody else that's in this industry that is should announce it. I'm doing it for the people who can't. Yeah, I mean, if I wasn't on camera, I'd still be having sex. You got a problem with it because I'm doing it on camera? Because you hook with me off camera, but because I say openly I'm positive and I'm having raw sex on camera, then I must be irresponsible.
So with being so open about your status, did you get any pushback from other adult entertainers or the people who didn't want to work with you? What were consumer responses to that?
Before I was diagnosed, I was with Marvin with Chocolate Cream, and I was just at his apartment in Brooklyn. He was like, you want to shoot a video? I said, yeah. He said, go on Adam for Adam and find somebody to shoot with you. Found this cute guy. And we was chatting and like the vibe was there. He was sexy. I was ready to do it. And he told me that he was HIV positive and I wasn't educated. And I did to him what I hate. I stigmatized him. I cut him off. I used words like, oh, you're not clean. Like that's stigmatizing all in itself. Like I wash my ass every day. Me having HIV doesn't make me dirty. But anyway, I did that to him way back when. And then when the tables, there was one moment, I think, and it wasn't in porn, but it was just on apps where I was like trying to hook up with somebody. And it almost played out the same way. They were down, we were vibing. I told them my status, and that was the last I heard from them, honestly. And that was hard to deal with because it's like, I know I'm in a better place. I know I'm healthy, but there are people who aren't educated. And who likes rejection? And it's like, I'm in a situation that I almost felt like I was going to continue to be rejected. When I moved to New York, that taught me a lot too, because I found a lot of other people going through what I was going through. So I realized like the more we talk about it, the more open we are about it, the freer we can be and the less stigmatized it is. There are people who don't know that they can get medication and get them undetectable because no one's talking about it. There's services to help so many people all across the country, like the Ryan White program. But if you don't talk about it, then people are going without getting the help they need. Because I'm thinking about like where all of my education came from up until that point was the church. And we ain't talking about that in church. So you just want to get HIV and die. And again, that was the world I lived in.
You grew up in church. I grew up in church, and I know the effect that can have on your sexuality first, just period, but especially as a Black gay man. So how do you reconcile your relationship with sex and your relationship with faith or God?
I think that was the first big struggle I had to work my way through. We, for some reason in our society, separate our sexual desires, our physical hunger and thirst, our intellect, our spirituality. For whatever reason, we separate those parts of ourselves instead of being holistic and realizing that when God created my sexuality, he created my spirituality. So instead of separating it and trying to find a peace between it, it's all the same thing, because sex can be very spiritual and spirituality could be like intercourse. Our intellect, our consciousness is our spirit. And everything that you see was created through our consciousness. Well, when you're sexual, you create. I like to say, like, the one thing that we can do as human beings naturally to create another soul is sex. There's nothing else you can do. So that's a powerful creating energy, and it's spiritual. So I could be naive. I can act like I don't know or I don't see, but there's no way I can separate them. It's impossible. I think that's why a lot of people are in torment in church, because we've been raised to look down on sexuality. whether that's heterosexuality or gay or being trans, like the whole sexual thing, we frown upon it. And a lot of us die in our 80s, 50s, 70s, whatever, never really understanding like that was a gift from God. Sex is a fucking gift from God.
Who's your favorite adult entertainer to work with?
I got to name two people. One from my studio days and one from my content creation days. And my studio days, Remy Mars.
Remy Mars.
Freaking love that man. We're both from Philly. We both started doing porn in like the same circle with the same circle of people. There was a lot of us, but Remy, like myself, just went all the way with it. He went further than I did, honestly. Hats off to him. Remy Mars has always been one of my favorites, and even still today, one of my favorite people. In the content creation world, I've met a lot of great people, but I think the person that I've connected with and like I really appreciate the person that they are, and we have great sex, is Zaddy Kervinus.
Okay.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to someone I can just sit and chill with and have a good time, or like I said, just have great sex, either way, and he's versed and I'm versed, so it's just perfect.
It's been one of your wildest experiences in the studio.
You might remember Tyson Kane.
Yes, I remember.
So after he got finished with his career as an entertainer, he went behind the camera and created his own studio. And one shoot he set up, it was supposed to be a threesome. Me and one of the other guys were there, and we all just like, okay, where's this other guy at? He finally comes in, and he's high off his ass, could barely stand up, and basically just ruined the entire set for everybody. I'm not going to name the company, but there was a situation where it was another threesome scene, and one of the guys, he said, I'm not going to be able to make it. And instead of just it being me and the other guy that was there, they went to look for a third person. And this guy shows up. Wasn't very fun to look at. Wasn't good at oral. Couldn't take penis. And he was a bottom. So that was like, okay, why are you here? You're wasting everybody's time. And that pissed me off. Like, I don't know. I think that was more of a frustrating experience.
Last question. Working as an adult entertainer, I think a lot of people strip it again of the humanity, of the experiences that build you as a human. Have there been any conversations or experiences or lessons that you learned working in this business that have made you a better person?
It's taught me to speak up for myself. I have a friend who for years was trying to drill this concept in my head, and I didn't get it for so long, and that was intrinsic value. Because my value was based off of my next shoot. It was based off of my next client. It was based off my next sex party. My value was tied to money, but not intrinsically who I was. So that, I think that's the biggest lesson I've learned through a lot of mishaps, a lot of missed opportunities, a lot of destroyed relationships. But I came out better because of those things. So I've learned to speak up for myself. I learned to value myself. Even now, this is new journey I'm on, because I've always, coming from church, everything was, oh, to God be the glory. Oh, I'm just a vessel being used. It's not about me. It's about him. And now I'm in a space where, no, I did that shit. That was me. I was slinging that dick. I was throwing that ass. And I know I'm being a little bit vulgar, but it's porn. But outside of just the sex, I can accept accolades. I can congratulate myself. I can be proud of who I am. Because even though my career was built in sex and in porn, I have had the opportunity to do a lot of community work and help out so many other people. I've written a book. I'm a photographer. I paint. I've created web series. I have talk shows. So like, I know that my value is so much bigger. And I think it was because of my experiences through porn, a lot of disappointments and just missing out on things that I should have been able to do. I just learned that I'm going to grab life by the balls. I'm going to live the best I can. I'm not going to be a mean and evil person to people, because that's just not who I am. But I'm not going to tolerate bullshit. I'm not going to let somebody underpay me. I'm not going to let somebody take it. I can't do that anymore. I've done that for so long in my life and I missed out. I can't. Like, life is great. As shitty as this world is, life is great and I enjoy it.
I appreciate what you're doing, and I wish you all the good things as you continue ahead on your journey. And you're there, and I'm here, but I'm right here cheering you